Stop the breakout. We are actually live. Alright, so this is going to be the first quarterfinal match of the TrackMania Open Fullspeed tournament sponsored by Landcast. We have 3 sexy people battling it out here for the spot into the semi-final. We have Nicklas, Areo and Dan battling it out here on 3 really difficult full speed tracks. The point limit is going to be 136 and we play 4 rounds on each map as we go into the warm-up here. Current TrackMania 1 time is a 108.82 by, who would have guessed, Mada. Yes, correct. Alright, so players warming themselves up. We go on the first map, TMO Shallow Water by Firefox. Very, very difficult track, by the looks of it at least. I have not played the maps myself, but they do look very difficult indeed. So here we go on map number 1 out of 4. So the first 2 players will advance into the semi-finals and the 3rd player will get knocked out of the tournament. Unfortunately, the 4th player who was supposed to participate in this match, Hunter, is not able to play due to health issues. He is feeling not that great, so he will drop out. But we will still have a very exciting match here as we go into the first round. Everybody's super close to each other, only 0.005 of a second here at the checkpoint as we enter the first 30 seconds of the track. Dan currently in first place, the German player for Team Easy Killers, extending his lead slowly but surely, but his fellow countryman Ariel is still in second place. On third we have Nicklas from Denmark for Team TA, who is a little bit in the back already, doesn't get the smoothest drop, and he will lose some additional time. So this is the fight to look out for, the fight for first and second place. We have Dan and Ariel battling it out here. Ariel actually with a little bit more speed here going into the turnover. The last couple of speed slides will decide it here. Ariel dropping into a full slide, but Dan not with the best line over the wall. But I think Dan will take it here into the finish line. Yes, he will, but only 0.05 of a second of a difference here. So this was a very good round here. Dan taking the first 10-pointer and Ariel on second. As we go on round number 2, this time we have Dan going for a little bit of a wider approach, but that will grant him the speed advantage and that will all of a sudden put him onto first place. So Dan with the alternate approach was definitely worth it and he will be on first place as of now. Ariel on second and Nicklas on third, so the same positioning as in round number 1 as of now. Nicklas has actually gotten the DNF in the previous round, so he is still sitting there with 0 points on his bank account. Unfortunately, there's no plugin with the current point standing on the left side. That is something we used to have in previous matches, but due to some server issues, I guess the plugin just didn't load properly. So we will have to go without. But the positions seem to be pretty much in stone here. Set in stone as we have Dan on a PB. Goes up to first place. Keeps himself on there. Finishes with a 109.24. That is a very solid time. 109.51 by Ariel and a 0.71 by Nicklas. So everybody finishing here. And Dan will get another 10-pointer. Only 0.4 of a second behind the TrackMania 1 time. So that is definitely a really good performance, considering how frustrating and how punishing full speed can be. As one mistake can pretty much ruin your time already. But anyway, we go into round number 3. This time it is Ariel in first place. Dan on second, going for slightly a different line here for the turnover. Both with pretty much equal speed. Dan is coming slightly closer. In the back we have Nicklas already 2900s behind as we go into the next turnover. Dan this time with a little bit more speed. Let's have a look at Ariel, who goes a little bit further to the right. As we have Dan with the speed advantage here, going outside of the wall. Ooh, that was very close by Dan. Goes very far to the left, almost hits the wall. But he is able to extend his lead here. Has a little bit more speed. as we go into the last wall. Oh, Dan going very far to the left. That might have cost a little bit of speed, but Areo is not able to take advantage from that. He will have a little bit more speed, but both will finish only 1/10 behind of each other. And Nicklas with another DNF, still at 4 points, as we have Dan cashing in another 10-pointer. He's at 30 points already. Areo at 18 and Nicklas at 4. As we go into round number 4 out of 4 on the first track. Nicklas showing a little bit of a choke here. Oh, Ariel not getting the best transition here. Gets a full slide, and that will cost him a lot of speed. As you can see, losing the speed in the first half of the track or in the beginning of the track will really decrease your chances of accumulating the required speed for the rest of the track. So Ariel will find himself being 0.3 of a second in the back already. Actually 0.5 now, so he continues to lose speed. As I said, just the way that you accumulate the speed is missing. So right now Nicklas is on second place, and he definitely needs those points, as he actually, wow, he touched the wall there. He did touch the wall, and he gets another DNF. So the Danish player is definitely not feeling it as of now. Dan extending his lead here, 60 hundredths again. He continues to drive those sick ass times. Dan with a 109.28. The German player showing his dominance here on map number 1 as he goes on with the 40 points. He got the perfect match so far. Really, really well done. We go on to map number 2. TMO Tommy by Heowin. Let's have a look. One warm-up, and then we go live. It's not a forced DNF if you crash, but you simply have no way to come back if you crash. Like, the slightest mistake will most likely put you in a position where you will not be able to finish. There's only a finish timeout of 2 seconds, by the way. So you will have to get a flawless run, otherwise you will just not be able to finish whatsoever. So especially if you crash and like fly out of the track, it is the guaranteed DNF, obviously. Alright, so here we have a TrackMania time of 56.15, so it's a little bit of a shorter track, but still relatively long. 56.15 by Mada. He is more than 2/10 faster than Div, who is on second place in the TrackMania standings. So, not really, you know, surprising, but seeing a gap of 0.2 of a second is absolutely crazy. So, the warm-up is ending as we go on to 4 additional rounds on map number 2. Current point standing being 40 points for Dan, 24 for Areo, and 4 points for Nicklas, who was only able to finish 1 out of 4 rounds on the previous track. So let's see if he will be able to do better on this track. All eyes on the Danish player, as we have Dan currently on first place, off to a really good start. Ariel being a little bit behind here, but nothing's decided yet. As we see Ariel coming a little closer, gets some faster speed drifts, and he will overtake Nicklas as he goes for a little bit of a wider approach as opposed to Dan. And Ariel will now secure himself the second place as we have Nicklas dropping out of the track, and that will be another DNF. That is not good for him whatsoever. He is just not feeling the match at all. He continues to choke and fall out of the track. So Dan will cash in another 10-pointer. Ariel with 6. That is looking very good for the first 2 positions already. We have the 2 German players, Dan and Ariel, on the first 2 positions with a big point margin down to Nicklas. Oh, Ariel this time in round number 2 getting a pretty weak start. Does not really get an optimal speed slide, so he will drop down to 3rd place. Dan once again on 1st place, continues to show his dominance. Nicklas on 2nd, but he is having low speed, so Ariel will come a little closer here. Not quite enough to catch up, but we still have a lot of turns coming up here, a lot of speed slides which are deciding for the outcome of the speed. Ariel not really coming closer here though. Dan is extending his lead though, so he is definitely on another level here right now. Nicklas is actually keeping himself on second place though, and he will finish on second place and will get 6 points now. So he will go up to 10 points. Dan at 60 and Ariel at 64. So Dan is almost halfway through as the point limit is 136. We play, of course, with the finalist mode enabled. So this is looking very good for EK Dan. For now. Going into round number 3. This time we have Ariel losing a little bit of ground here in the first 30 seconds of the track. Nicklas doing pretty good here this time as well. Is he maybe finding back to the match? That is the question of life right here. As we go into the long turnover. Dan once again on first place, and Nicklas going way too early out of the track. And he will fall off the track again. Another DNF for the Danish player. So we have more than half a second. Actually 0.8 of a second here. Dan finishing with the 56.71. A very good time here by him. And Ari with the 57.55. And Dan continues with the perfect match. He has taken first place in every single round so far. So he is doing phenomenally good. Really, really crazy stuff by Dan. As we go into the final round on Team Otomi. This time it is Ariel having the upper hand here. Nicklas on third. Let's have a look at him. Looking pretty good for all of the 3 players. Dan once again on first place. He is already 0.3 ahead of Ariel. And Nicklas trying to come back to Ariel here. He is not too far behind. But we go into the final section of the track, so the positions are pretty much set in stone here. Dan on first, Ariel on second, and Nicklas on third. Those are going to be the final positions, as Dan will continue his perfect match. 80 points for him. 56.75 continues to just dominate everyone. And we go on to map number 3. We have TMO Beast Nature by Hunter, who was supposed to play in this match, unfortunately had to drop out. So he will be on the bench for his own map. As we go into the warm-up here, as always, point standing is 80 points for Dan, 46 for Ariel, and 14 for Nicklas. So it is kind of obvious that Dan is going to move on in this tournament. And it also looks very, very good for Ariel. So, yeah. Let's see what's going to happen in the remaining of the match. We have Dan with the TrackMania 2 time. 1:04.16. But he is 3/10 behind Mada. Like, this gap is absolutely inhuman. And there's no way to explain how Mada gets that time. It is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. I mean, 3/10 of a second. No matter if it's full speed, dirt, tech, or anything else, 3/10 of a second is an absolute demolishment. To put it that way. There's no way to deny that. And of course, we are gonna see Mada in match 41, which is gonna be played on Tuesday, 9 PM CST. But now, all eyes on this match. 4 rounds once again, as we go on the third map. Everybody off to a good start here. Ariel this time taking over first place. Will he deny Dan the perfect match? Right now, Dan is battling it here with Nicklas for second place. So looking pretty good here for the German man, Ariel. The man with the blue A in his name. Currently on first place, 1400s ahead of Dan. Will he be the man to deny Dan the perfect match? Oh, Areo actually struggling a little bit on the wall. He has to counter steer. And Dan extending his speed slide a little longer than Areo. So he will come a little closer here. 800ths of a second as we go into the next wall. Dan is coming closer and closer. The final set of speed slide will decide it here. We have 10 seconds of track left on the clock. Dan is coming closer and closer as we go into the turnover. Dan still with a little bit more speed. This is only 1 or 2 hundredths of a second right now. Only 8,000ths of a second, and Ariel will actually deny Dan the perfect match as Ariel finishes with 200ths of a second and goes up to first place. Crazy, crazy stuff by Ariel. He gets the 10 points, the first 10 points for him. Dan on second, and Nicklas finished on third. Oh, we have a mistake by Ariel this time. So he was getting excited a little bit too much here, and he's not even passing the speed check here, so he will get the DNF after taking the 10-pointer, and that is actually really good for Nicklas, because if he doesn't mess up, he will get the 6 points here for his bank account. Oh, that was Monka S, as he almost jumps a little too much to the left, and that is looking really good for Dan, and that will most likely mean another 10-pointer for him. Unless making a mistake by Dan, then we have a 10-pointer for Nicklas. He has not scored a 10-pointer so far, obviously. But yeah, anything can happen, of course. Full speed is very punishing. And even one of the best players like Dan could make a mistake. Oh, Nicklas touching the wall here, but he will make the finish jump. So Dan will finish with a 1:04.24. That is actually faster than Kid's third TrackMania time. So Dan, with an amazing time here, goes up to 96 points. 56 for Ariel and 24 for Nicklas as we go into round number 3. So Dan with a banger of a time here. Really, really well done by the German powerhouse for Team Easy Killer. Amazing time. And he continues to just outclass every single one of them in this match. Ariel already 1500s behind. Nicklas on third continues to lose time, but he's still able to keep himself on the track. Let's see if the last half of the track will make a difference. We see Nicklas actually doing with the full stopping here once again. Another DNF for Nicklas. And the first and second position will be set in stone here. Dan with another solid time, 1:04.44. And Ariel with a .84. So Dan going up to a 3-digit point score, 106 for him, 62 for Ariel, and 24 for Nicklas. Last round on TMO Beast Nature. Oh, early mistake by Ariel. And that will be the early DNF for the German player. That is the second DNF for him in this map. So he is maybe risking it a little bit too much here. He knows that he can put a nice fight up, but the risk of course get punished here. So Dan, once again, taking most likely 10 points home. Nicklas already quite far behind, 5200ths of a second. But finishing will be really important for him. He needs those points. He had so many DNFs. So he needs every single point, even though it is very unlikely for him to come back from a 38-point disadvantage. But then again, everything can happen, even though the chances are getting slimmer and slimmer. 1:04.45 by Dan. Once again, a really solid time, goes up to 116 points. And he will have the chance to go up to finalist mode as we go back to Team O Shallow Water by Firefox. He needs to finish two first places to go up to finalist mode. For those who don't know what finalist mode means, it means that once you get finalist mode, meaning that you pass the point limit of 136, then you need to win another round to secure your position. So So we go back to this track here. I mean, as long as Dan finishes all of the rounds, you will get finalist mode whatsoever. So there's really no pressure on his shoulders whatsoever. He only needs to finish pretty much. The only thing he needs is to finish. But we have seen his performance on the previous tracks. He has done a really, really solid job in this match. And I think he will continue with this on this map. So this is the longest track of the map pack. 108.82 by Mudda is the TrackMania 1 time. And we see a pretty promising fight here in the warm-up. Only 400th of a second between Dan and Ariel in the warm-up. As the time is ticking down. 8 seconds left on the clock. Never mind. Already going into the warm-up. Into the live round. So here we go. Round number 1. This is the chance for Dan to perhaps win this match. Let's see how the players will be performing. Let's have a look at Nicklas, who is currently in first place. Goes for a slightly wider approach here on the speed slide. And Nicklas actually in first place. This is something we haven't really seen too often. But he is being pursued by Areo and Dan at the same time. So he has 2 German players right behind him. As we see Dan having the speed advantage here. Wow, this is so close here right now. Only 15 thousandths of a second. Tearing those 3 players apart. This is actually really close here right now. Any mistake can decide it here. Dan now going up to first place. But we have Nicklas also trying to make a difference here. Nicklas also in the battle here. And so is Ariel. So this is going to be really, really interesting to see how the players will approach the last set of speed slides here. The last wall will decide it. Ariel in first place. But we have Dan just very, very close by. Dan maybe with a little bit more speed. Maybe the final speed set will decide it. Only 8 thousandths of a second between Ariel and Dan here. Very, very nice fight. And Nicklas also only 1/10 of a second behind. So this was one of the most intense rounds of this match so far. Well done by all of the 3 players. And we have 122 points for Dan, 72 for Ariel, and 34 for Nicklas. As he states that he got a PB. So very well done by the Danish player. Going into the round number 2, we have Dan going for a slightly alternate line. Ariel is sticking his nose into the picture. Ooh, Dan getting a really solid speed slide here. Will get away a little bit from his fellow countrymen. 900th of a second already. Looks like Dan got the speed advantage here as well. 1300ths now. So this round isn't that close. But everybody's still in a reasonable margin. Nicklas on last 4900ths already. But finishing will be important for him. Let's have a look at Ariel. Will he come closer? That is the question. We don't really have a lot of track left. But Ariel, I think, with a little bit of a speed advantage. Let's see if he will be able to come back to Dan here in the last speed slide. He has a little bit more speed, but this will not be enough here. Dan, 109.36. Ariel with a 109.44. So, good times up front. And Dan, up to 132 points. He only needs to finish this round now. And then he will go up to finalist mode. Everybody off to a good start. However, we have Dan this time in the disadvantage. Goes for a slightly different line. He goes for a little bit of a less airtime strat. And it didn't really pay off for him this time. So he will find himself in last place, which is something we haven't really seen too often. Oh, Ariel actually clipping the inside of the platform. And that will bump his car quite a little bit. That will cost him a lot of speed. So Nicklas now in first place. And also Dan will come closer to Ariel. Will go for the overtake. Dan now in second place. Nicklas on first. This is looking pretty fucking good for the... Oh, no! He goes for a full stopping into the wall. This is the second time he hits it. And Nicklas, that was the chance for him to get the 10-pointer. Instead, he kisses the wall and gives Dan the 10-pointer. As we have Ariel 1500ths behind, entering the last wall. And that will be the final status for Dan. 109.52. Ariel with a 69. Orp. And this will position Dan in his first finalist attempt. Last round on this map. Will he make a quick fashion out of this? Will he finish this in his first finalist attempt? Or will he stumble or crumble from the pressure? Let's have a look. Dan off to a good start this time, battling it out with Ariel. Ariel in first place goes for an alternate line here. As I said, Dan goes a little bit more on the outside, tries to cancel the airtime as much as possible. And right now it actually did pay off for him, as the EK player is putting himself on first place with the speed advantage. 600s here already. Oh, and Ariel getting the unfortunate nosedive, clips the edge of the platform and will get the DNF. So this will most likely be the GG for Dan, as we have Nicklas also getting the DNF. So yeah, Dan will most likely win this match, unless he flies out of the track here. But I don't think he will do this. So Dan will have the GG here. Yep. Dan finishing 109.38, and that is of course the deserved victory, and he will be the first player to move on into the semi-finals of the TrackMania Open Fullspeed tournament. GG, well deserved. Alright, so we have 84 points for Areo and 38 for Nicklas. So we're definitely gonna see at least 2 maps until we see the next potential player to win the next seat. The next hot and spicy seat in the tournament. So it's gonna be a 1v1 between the German player Ariel, currently for no team, and Nicklas for Team TA from Denmark. As we go back to Team Otomi for the second time in this match. So I would say Areo is definitely an advantage here. He is the faster and the more consistent player. So he needs to build up on that and try not to make these mistakes which result in a DNF. Because now a DNF means that your opponent player will gain 10 points on you. So that is going to be really important to cancel out those DNFs, because that will really hurt you, your score. So let's see if the players will manage to do that. We go on to round number 1. Nicklas with a good start here. Never mind, he does not get the speed slide whatsoever. And Nicklas, jumping out of the track, goes for a shortcut. And yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. He will lose 10 points to Areo now. Dan has not have one DNF at all. He finished every single round. He got 1/3 or 1 second, and the rest was all first place. So he did an amazing job. Alright, so let's have a look at Ariel. He is gonna cash in the 10 points. That will put him up to 94 points. The point limit is 136, so he is nowhere close to getting the finalist status. But he's getting one big step closer. 94 for him, 38 for Nicklas, as we go into round number 2. He's not getting the speed drift once again. Of course, it is quite a difficult one to get, because you come from a pretty weird angle at pretty low speed as well. But that is of course something you need to get, because every single kilometer an hour matters on full speed. And as you can see, it makes a significant difference, as we have Ariel 1700ths of a second ahead of Nicklas already. 35 seconds into the track. Going into the turnover, into the long ass speed drift to the right. And Ariel is extending his lead. Final wall remaining. Both of them will finish. Ariel with the 57.33, more than 1 second behind the TrackMania 1 time. And then we have Nicklas, 57.61. So Ariel will now move up to the 3-digit score, 104 for the German player, 44 for Nicklas. So he is 60 points behind. Going into round number 3. Ariel with a slight advantage here. Has to slightly adjust his line in the wall, but it didn't really make him lose speed. So Ariel continues to extend his lead right now. Let's have a look at the checkpoint. 1400s already. Oh, Ariel going for a slightly alternate line here into the auto drift, but he gets it nicely, extends his lead. 2000s already. Nicklas trying his best to come back. He got a little bit more speed out of that speed drift, but I don't think this is gonna matter too much. If the track was a little longer, he maybe could have taken advantage from the speed advantage he got. So we have Ariel with another 10 point, 56.89. Nicklas, 57.07. Ariel with 114 points. Nicklas at 50. So in the best case, Ariel will move up to finalist status on the next track if he continues to get those 10 pointers. This time we see Nicklas actually going for a very inside line, but he will get punished because he got a lot of airtime on that little platform transition. So he will get punished for that, unfortunately, and will find himself losing a lot of speed. And he also gets the bump on the Randstein before the looping, which fucked up his line entirely. Drops down into the wall, into the grass, and contemplates about life. So we have Ariel being the only one on the track, going into the last wall, and will cash in another 10 points. Ka-ching! 57.22. Goes up to 124 points. He needs to finish 2 more rounds on the next track to move on to finalist mode, and then he will be finalist. No matter if he takes 2 first, 2 second, 1 second, 1 first, it doesn't matter. And we will see Team O Beast Nature by Hunter for the last time in this match. And yeah, you guys have a good point in the chat. If Hunter would actually play this match, he unfortunately dropped out due to health issues, as I mentioned already. If he played, then he would have made up a really sick fight against Dan. And that would have been really, really amazing to watch. But yeah, unfortunately, health goes first. As we have the raid by spam, 128 people. Thank you very much. Hope you had a good stream, man. Welcome, welcome. And we go on to the live rounds. Ariel at 124 points. Nicklas at 50. So this seems to be almost decided already. Let's have a look at Nicklas. Going on to the first set of transitions and drops. Ariel having this slight upper hand here, going into the first wall. Drops down. As I said, he can take it easy here. He only needs to finish these rounds. No matter if he's second or first, he just needs to finish. And right now, it is looking good. He's on first place, 900s ahead of Nicklas. Oh, Ariel. What is Nicklas doing? He just jumped out of the wall. So, yeah, Ariel is gonna finish another 10 pointer here. I don't know why Nicklas did that. It is never too late to give up. And he just decided to throw himself on the grass. So, yeah. Guess he kinda gave up internally already, which is always not nice to see. Despite the very hopeless situation. But, you know, it can still happen. Mathematically, it can still happen. But yeah, whatever. Ariel at 134 points. He's only 2 points short to get to the finalist status. So he only needs to finish here. And then it is looking pretty good for the German player as we go into round number 2. Round number 2. Nicklas with an early mistake. DNF again. Resident Sleeper. So once again, a 10-pointer for Ariel. Professional TrackMania esports, ladies and gentlemen. You are witnessing a $1 million Zimbabwean dollar tournament right here. And you can see everybody is going for it. Alright, so Ariel going for the safe lines here. He knows that he only needs to finish here. Doesn't really go for the risky lines here. So he is definitely gonna move on to finalist status. And there he goes into the finish arc, 106.07. And that means the German player will go up to finalist mode, which means he needs to win one more round to secure his positions in the semi-finals of the TrackMania Open Fullspeed tournament. Let's see. I mean, he got like 1 quadrillion match ball attempts, so he could take it easy. But judging by what we've seen in the previous rounds, I think this will be easy going for him. Ariel in first place, only 600s ahead, as we have Nicklas going for the full stopping into the sign. And that will be the GG. Unless Ariel flies out of the track as well. Oof. Mate, that was close. But he will hopefully take it easy here. He is minus 26 on his personal PB best. And that is looking pretty good for him. Last speed slide. And he will slide into the semifinals. GG to Ariel. He will move on together with his countryman Dan into the semifinal. GG.